There's a lot of technology here. What technology do you notice? Well, it looks like some people actually have flying carpets. All of a sudden, the noise of an explosion threw me out of my body, and that is where I witnessed the intense explosion that blew everything up. I always find it interesting to know what happens after a person has left their earthly lifetime. Below describes what most people recount, or similar to what most people recount during their sessions. It feels like a sense of complete belonging, love, and weightlessness. I just pass into the next world. What does that world look like? This is where we find out what happens after you die. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Just Being Me channel. Super glad to have you here with me today. Today's episode is a little deeper, so I want to start out by sending a heartfelt acknowledgement out to anyone who's dealing with loss or the passing of a loved one. There are times in life when we all often wonder what comes next, and that can feel both daunting and mysterious. So today we'll be exploring a powerful story of a past life in Atlantis that not only reveals what happens when we cross over, but also gives us a little glimpse as to what happens before we're incarnated. So picking this chapter wasn't easy. It was a toss-up between this one and another chapter that discussed the origins of humanity, or at least where we are now, how we went from primates pretty much to the we're pretty advanced. Considering evolution and how long everything takes, we've advanced really fast and we've had help. So the other chapter that I was considering had a story of a person who has regressed to that lifetime when they were one of those people who came to Earth to help kickstart things, so to speak, for humanity, for the whole globe. So it wasn't an easy choice, like I said. And this is the third and final part of my read through for a hypnotist journey to Atlantis. So I wanted to do it right. I had to take some things into consideration, and I guess it was pretty obvious which way I should go with this, which is why I came this way. I have lost some people very close to me, very near and dear to me. I've lost good friends. My kid's mom died. So, that one, I still think about her a lot. And, just knowing some of this stuff that I know and some of the things that I've come across, the near-death experiences, you can look those up on YouTube. You'll find a lot of those stories that could potentially help you, like it helped me. These stories brought closure to me because I was one of those people wondering why did this happen? Why did this person get taken from me? I was wondering why. And then hearing these type of stories, I understood why. And while it didn't completely erase that pain, it definitely made it a little easier to deal with. I'm not even going to say a lot. It just made it a little easier. It brought me a little bit of comfort because I know they're not suffering. I know they're still with us. They're still around. The energy never dies. So, it helps. And I hope this story helps you all. So chapter 17 is titled Atlantis Calls Its Souls Home. All right, so this chapter starts out with a little note from the author discussing what's about to happen. So here we go. This kind of ties into what was happening during the hypnosis session, so I'm going to break it down for you. I've noticed a correlation with many of my clients who come seeking healing for their eyes and regressing to a past life in Atlantis or Lemuria. It's almost as if they need to recount the specific past life experience to find clarity in this one. Robert came to me for a session because he wanted to know if he could heal his eyes. He had suffered from astigmatism for as long as he could remember and decided he wanted to try Dolores Cannon's method of QHHT. It was no surprise to me when Robert began describing a place that sounded all too familiar. This is his session. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. What do you see around you? Buildings. Lots of buildings that look a little different because they were made of different materials that I've never seen before. How would you describe these buildings? They're grayish blue, large buildings that have see-through windows. but the materials are a lot stronger than what we have today. You can't break these windows. Huh, interesting. So they were building with bulletproof windows back then, or at least it sounds like bulletproof. I don't know. Can't tell. Interesting. What else do you notice? I see lots of clouds, and the sky is a pinkish purpley color, gray almost. There looks like there's a smog, sort of, or gray clouds. Maybe something is burning somewhere around me. Do you get a sense of what could be burning? No, I don't see anything from where I'm looking, just the smog. What else do you see around you? Lots of stores look like they sell very advanced electronic tools. Is there anything interesting that you notice? I see a green sign with letters that look like the pi symbol, almost. It isn't exactly the symbol, but similar. That is the only writing I see. What about modes of transportation? Do you see any? Not right now, but I see people walking. How are these people dressed? They seem to have grayish clothes out of a material that I don't recognize at the moment. I see gray is one of their colors for back then. I don't think it was because of lack of pigment, because we see the colors that are in the pyramids and other things from ancient times where there's color. So yeah, it just seems like they like gray. Kind of like a lot of the remodels of houses today. Look down at your body and see if you have feet there. No, I don't. I'm just observing this place from above before I decide if I want to be born here. I'm not in a body yet. What do you decide? I decided to do it. How long before you decided to be born did you watch this area? It would be hard to explain. For about 12 human years. What made you choose this place? I'm planning to live a hard life. This will be a challenging life in Atlantis. So let's pause right there, because that goes back to what I said in that last episode, or what was said in that last episode. I'm sorry, I didn't say it. It was written in the book. But in that last episode, there was discussion about comparing having a hard life to a rock being in a tumbler. And, you know, if you go through the tumbler, go through that whole cycle, you come out as a much more polished and valuable and better looking rock than you would if you were to cut that cycle short, you know. And that was the whole basis of not committing suicide. You know, we all chose the lives that we are going through right now. So if it's hard, you know, figure out what you have to do, figure out your calling, figure out what it is that you were meant to do here. And more importantly, stick it out, because you're worth it. You are absolutely worth it. What makes this life hard? There are a lot of people here who are mean and self-centered, which makes this place more challenging. Tell me more. I forget this information when I'm born. Come in, which is why we're always wondering, where did we come from? What's the purpose of life? Is this true? Is that true? Yeah, we forget all of that, so we don't just glide through this. I forget this information when I'm born, but I start interacting with mean people when I go to school. Well, it's not exactly school, just kids I socialize with. What is school like for you? There, you go into a building and get the knowledge. It's hard to explain. There aren't any teachers or class. Now that's pretty dope. I mean, yes, you do miss out on the whole going to class and interacting with other humans and possibly meeting lifelong friends, but that is dope. That is just dope that you can just go and get the knowledge and it's just like that. Kind of makes you wonder, you know, when you think about some movies or sci-fi cartoons or whatever. I've seen something like that. I can't think of what movie or cartoon or show, whatever I was watching. I can't remember what it was that I was watching, but I've definitely seen something where people would go and just have knowledge downloaded into them, kind of like they're an android or something. Like, I don't know, maybe it was one of those type of movies with robot humans or something. I don't know, but I've definitely heard of that before. or seen it in a movie or something fictional. I've seen this, okay? Not in real life like I'm looking at my hand right now, okay? Or like you guys are looking at me. What does that feel like? It feels like your mind is really fresh and fresh with new ideas. It feels like your head gets cold before the knowledge is put into it. Could you tell me more about some of the knowledge that you were given? It's very scientific. A lot of probabilities and learning about what to do in case things happen. All right, guys. So just to keep up with the flow of things and to move things along, there's a portion of this chapter that I'm gonna leave out. There's a couple of things I'm gonna leave out just for the sake of time and just to try a different format. Instead of reading the whole chapter, just read the interesting parts that correlates mostly with the title of the video. So this part starts out with Robert. Oh, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. Robert began crying as something was obviously upsetting him. What do you see? What's happening? It is just horrible. Horrible what people do to one another here. I see a man who is experimented on. It's so incredibly sad. What happened to him? Looks like he was given animal legs, as if they were sewn on to where his old legs used to be. He looks like he had just walked out of that place where they did this to him, and he's dying in the street. What happens next? It looks like someone quickly takes him away so that others don't see this. Do you know why they did this to him? No. I see they did many terrible experiments on people here that I just don't want to see them. That's rough. That's insane. I couldn't imagine seeing something like that. Like, why? All right. Is there anything else that you noticed that seems interesting or important? I moved ahead in time now, and I'm just old and ready to die. Tell me more. I'm in the hospital. It's one of the biggest buildings in the city. It has many rooms. It doesn't have to be that big, but they make it that big. They can easily cure people of everything. Do you get a sense of how they do that? I just know that they figured out how to cure people of anything except old age. Are there any doctors there? Do they assist you? I've left my body now. My soul is leaving, so I can only see their heads. But from what I see, most of them have brown or blonde hair. There's 3 of them. They just wear regular clothes and not doctor's outfits you see today. You said that they can cure people with anything. Could you tell me more about that now that you have a different perspective? Any physical issues a person may have can be cured at this point. They don't really cure anyone if they lose a limb or anything like that because people can do that themselves now. How did they do that? They just regenerated using energy that they harnessed from somewhere. So that's pretty dope. And I'm not even going to say that, that's something that we should bring back now. That's something that I've heard that we have the ability to do and technology to do today. Okay. It was Dr. Stephen Greer, one of his videos on YouTube where he was talking about that. He said that there's like, the way it was explained to him, it was like let's say you lose your arm, your physical arm is gone, but your astral arm is still there. Like your astral energy is still there. So the energy never leaves. That limb, it can go, but the energy never leaves. And that kind of, I've heard stories of people who have lost limbs and say they can still feel the limb that's detached from their body. And, it's all you hear something like that, you just wonder how is that possible? But then you get into some of the spirituality teachings and you learn about astral travel, which is a form of leaving your body while you're still alive and doing things that shouldn't be possible, but we are impossible. But so there's that whole theory of the astral body, which I do believe. So when I heard that, if you lose a limb, the energy, the astral energy is still there. And that is how they use the technology to grow back limbs today. Like this is some hidden, super high-tech government stuff that they don't want out just yet. So, that part of this story doesn't seem far-fetched as far as everything else I believe in. Do you get a sense of how they get this energy? It feels like it's extracted from some sort of person or people, but I really don't know who or how they get this. When Robert was saying this, I felt it matched up well with what I had heard from others about the so-called animal people of Atlantis. His description of advanced technology and human-animal hybrids was intriguing, yet traumatic. And so we continue to find out more about his experience from a different perspective. I always find it interesting to know what happens after a person has left their earthly lifetime. Below describes what most people recount, or similar to what most people recount during their sessions. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where the fun begins. This is where we find out what happens after you die. Now that you're leaving that lifetime, do you get a sense of what the purpose or lesson for that life was? It was just to challenge myself and to be brave. But now I understand that this is why I blurred my eyes in this lifetime. I didn't want to see the crimes against humanity then, and so I made sure I wouldn't see them clearly this time. But now I realize what I did. I feel like it's being released. I feel my eyes tingling. What's happening? They're healing. How do you feel? So good. Now I feel like I can go into the sky, and it feels amazing. Tell me about it. It feels like a sense of complete belonging, love, and weightlessness. I just pass into the next world. What does that world look like? It's the in-between sweet spot. It's very light in appearance and feel. There's just an airiness about you and an unhindered glow around you. Do you recognize where you are? Yes. It feels like you're just above everything else, looking down in a very warm, suspended way. Do you feel as if you have a body or no? No, I don't feel a body, but I do have a face, a head in a way. I feel that it's very wispy what I have for a body. What do you like to do there? I like to soar above cities and swoop in and just fly around and look at things from way up above. That sounds fun. Not gonna lie. You just get to fly around the world and look at stuff, people watch, sightsee. That sounds fun. Like when it's all said and done, all that stuff I didn't get to see that's on my bucket list, I'm going. I'm going. How does that feel? It feels exhilarating. What else do you like to do there? Everything. Eating here is interesting. You can taste anything you like, but there's no physical putting things in your mouth. If I thought of a chocolate cake, I could immediately taste the sensation of a chocolate cake going down, and the warmth and the gooiness and the sugar, and the memory of that would come right to you. Whew. Oh, man. Where's that? Because I'm ready. I'm ready. I want some chocolate cake now. But just imagine that, like anything you want to eat, you think of it, and then there's that sensation. You taste it, you feel it going down, but you don't get the calories. Now that would be perfect right now. What about people? Are there other people that you spend time with? If you want to see them, you can. And if you would like to be alone, you could just be on your own. Are there any dwellings or things of that sort? I don't feel a need for any kind of dwellings. It doesn't feel like it's necessary because houses just shelter you from the elements that don't affect you at this point. What about classes? I've heard many people talk about the classes that they take in the in-between life. Yes, they're school. You go and you study what you've done in the past, and you study what you would like to do in the next life. There you go with that reincarnation, baby. It doesn't end here. We come back. Or go other places. You can go to other planets and all that stuff. Love it. Then you go and make plans for things you would like to accomplish, and you figure out what other things you can intertwine into it to make it a really interesting life. You also figure out who you want to interact with next time as well. So that is dope. That goes back to what I said in one of my earlier episodes on the podcast where I was talking about the pre-life decisions. You know, like he just said here, you decide who you want to interact with. So everyone you've interacted with in your life, whether you loved it or hated it, whether it was good, bad, or just mediocre, you two made that decision to interact with each other in this lifetime for one reason or another. That's all I can say. Like, everybody in your life is like everybody in your soul group. Well, not necessarily your soul group, but you get it. How often do you go to this school? Could you tell me more? It depends on what level you are. If you're in a place of mourning or just left the body, you may want to stay up here where I am for a while and just be by yourself and take it all in. And when you're ready and you feel that you are ready, you can go process things from your life through one of the schools. During this time, you can also go see if you would like to find a side project to help others. Tell me more about that. You can guide and help others. You can look after them. Sometimes you are sent to do that even though it's not something that you were looking to do. Tell me more. Who would send you? Sometimes there's just a more perfect assignment for you when you are in the in-between place. And even though you can't see it at first, by the time it's over, you've gained something beneficial from it. There's a connection between you and the sender. There's more than just one big sender. There are several different aspects of it working as one. Could you tell me more about that? It seems like there's this big giant capsule of different energies that are very old and very wise and operate sort of like a brain. Almost where it can make things happen all over the place without you even realizing it, and you're not really aware. But you are in tune with it. You are an extension of it. How do you feel towards these big energies? The same way you feel towards your child or a parent that you love very much. You feel that you are a part of it, a continuation of it, and there is a comfort there. There's a familiarity and a deep sense of belonging to it, kind of like sitting on your parents' sofa in your pajamas. There's no awkwardness about it. There's a connection, so you feel as if you're an extension of it, a very specific extension of it. Could you tell me more about that? Picture a big thing of slime that you hold in your hand, and part of it could drop down to the ground, but you're still holding a big chunk of it in your hand. You are an extension like that. You aren't part of the big part in the hand anymore, but you're dripping down towards something different. And when you're ready, you go back up to the big clump and you share what it is that you did when you were a drip. Boom. We hear people say it all the time. After someone dies, oh, they went back home. They went back home. But then we still have this mindset that Earth is home. And it's not. It's not our true home. It's just where we chose to live or experience this human life. That's all. So do you share what you did in that life with everyone? Is that what you mean? It feels like it's a collective sharing so others can learn from you, but it's never the same as when you learn it yourself. The sharing from others can give you good ideas for how you would like to proceed in your future existences. And that way you always have something to work with. New ideas and new concepts to break down and jump off and leap from. Is there anything else important or interesting about what you're looking at? That I've never truly been alone. I am always loved, and I'm much more than a physical body. At this point, I asked to speak with Robert's all-knowing, all-powerful subconscious to find out more about why they showed him this lifetime and more information about his eyes. This is what the subconscious said. Robert said his eyes were healed. Is that correct? They healed energetically instantly, as he understood why he had blurred them. The full physical healing would take a week to complete. What will he notice? You will feel a slight tingling sensation during the day, but most of the healing will take place at night when he is asleep. So in a week, what will he notice? He will notice full and clear eyesight returning to his vision. However, one eye will always be darker and one eye will always be lighter. Why? To remind him that the light and the dark that he sees are still the same thing. Why did you show Robert that lifetime? What did you want him to understand? To see what he has been afraid to see for so long. He doesn't have to be afraid anymore. Could you tell me more about that? He was afraid to see the similarities of this current society and the one in Atlantis, but he needs to understand that the negative energy has just as much a role to play in the growth of a society as the light does. Does he understand this now? Yes, and his eyes will always remind him of this. Robert woke up out of his session and noticed a slight clarity to his eyes and a lightness to his body. He emailed me a week after the session reporting that his eyes were, in fact, healed. He stated that he no longer needed to wear glasses and that one eye is now darker than the other, a reminder of his healing that he loves. Below is another session with a client named Kathy. Kathy came in for a QHHT session because she was curious about the process and was eager to learn about her past lives. Once Kathy was gradually led into a theta state of hypnosis, I could not help but notice the same technology advancements she described with the ancient life she was regressed to. Below is an excerpt detailing the finery and sophistication she witnessed during her session. What do you become aware of? It's cloudy here. No, it's actually gray for some reason. It almost looks like smog. Oh, tell me more about what you notice around you. It looks very busy with people working, but I'm confused because the people seem very advanced, and I feel this was a very long time ago. I noticed that the windows are made of a very tough material, tougher than glass. I wonder what kind of material is that? Or actually, you know what? Never mind. Now that I think about it, I think it was something I was watching. I think it was Cosmic Disclosure, where they were talking about some technology. They saw that it was clear metal. It wasn't glass, but it was a clear metal that looked like glass. So yeah, like, I get it. It's like all of this stuff is just, it's coming full circle. Also, wow, there's a lot of technology here. What technology do you notice? Well, it looks like some people actually have flying carpets. Flying carpets. It looks like some people have flying carpets. I'm just thinking of Aladdin. And thinking of Aladdin, that brings me back to something I've always questioned as a child. Like, where do people, not even just as a child, but even in my adult life, I often wondered, or I used to wonder, where did people come up with these ideas from? Like, what were you high on to think of Star Wars? Like, that's where my mind was at. Like, how do you come up with these concepts and ideas? And then I take a trip down this rabbit hole that we all call awakening, and I find out that a lot of those things that are supposedly fictional that we see in cartoons and movies and all of that stuff, I'm hearing a lot of those things actually happen either off planet or in the very, very, very distant past. Like, yeah. Flying carpets, though. That was dope. That's so dope. What do they do with these? It looks like they use them for transport. How do they do that? Alchemy, magic. They use magic. They create all sorts of innovations here. Tell me more. They seem to have watches and crystals that power things, and lots of ways to make life easier for everyone. Could you tell me more about some of these ways? They had elevators and things you wouldn't think that the people would have then. Technology that shouldn't have been available then, but they had it. And they were workers. They worked with their minds so much, and they did a lot of tinkering. They were great inventors here. Could you tell me more about the inventors? Yes. There were many of them, but it was too much. They never erred on the side of feeling anything. They just put all of their efforts into innovating their technology. And that is what caused the destruction of Atlantis and other civilizations in the past. You know, we advanced as humans multiple times over the Earth's history, and we seem to reach this level of advancement, technology, whatever. We reach this level of advancement, and then everything resets. And it's because the proper way to advance is to advance spiritually along with your technology. Don't just advance the technology and not your spirit. That's where things can get bad and go wrong. So yeah, that makes sense to me. That's not the only time I've heard of that either. They did not ever cater to their emotional bodies. But there was one particular inventor who could alchemize gold. How? He would concoct it and make it, and then he would use it to cover things. The gold is beautiful and all around here. Tell me more about that. There are golden objects everywhere, golden staircases even. The gold was created and alchemized, and I see gold cutlery, plates, and jewelry, but it's such masculine jewelry, like masculine watches and rings. You said people had watches. Can you tell me more about that? Yes, they were the first humans to use the invention of time. The same time that we use now? Yes, they invented the watch and were the first humans to use what we know of this time now because they wanted to make sure they were using it all productively. They were very productive. How do they have all of this knowledge? We had knowledge and technology that was given to us from the extraterrestrials that seeded us here. And pause for a moment right there, because that chapter, or that other chapter that I was talking about, that I said I was debating on if I want to do that one versus this one, that one gets into this story of the extraterrestrials coming here and seeding Earth and, helping with evolution. So get the book if you are interested in that story, because it is a good one. It is a really good one. Continuing on. How was it given to you? The very early Atlanteans were given this information in many different ways, and most of the technology was stored and found under the chambers of the Sphinx. What was under the Sphinx? Technology and information. It was put there so that there would be access. The information and technology grew and grew amongst our society. It grew and grew, and it was too much. Why was it too much? We just advanced in that area without advancing within ourselves. There was no balance. Everything was for work here. Nothing here is pure joy or fun. That almost sounds like today. Like, all we do is work. We spend more time at work than we do at home. It's crazy, but it's slightly more balanced than it seems to be in this story. That's just my take on it. Everything here is very masculine. Like, many people here eat big turkey legs and have big over-the-top feasts. The feast, though they look very luxurious with very big cups of wine, are not for fun, but because you earned it and you worked so hard. Let's leave that scene and move ahead of time to the last day of that life. What do you become aware of? It's just an average day. I go to work, nothing seemed unusual. I had no preparation for what happened. What happened? All of a sudden, the noise of an explosion threw me out of my body. And that is where I witnessed the intense explosion that blew everything up. There was no preparation. I had no idea. Did you feel pain at all? Now this is the $1 million question. Did you feel pain at all? I don't think so. One minute I was working and the next I was out of my body. There were many of us just looking at one another in disbelief. Could you imagine that? You just working, doing your thing, and then all of a sudden, poof, you're out of your body. And then everybody that was at work just looking around at each other like, damn, things look a little different. Like, what's it? Hold on. Could you imagine? just to be going about your normal day and then boom, out of your body and you're dead, but you're alive, you're conscious. This isn't the first time that, well, let's put it this way. There was another there was a near-death experiencer who drowned. And he said, like, when everything happened, when he went underwater, he said he took in one breath After he couldn't hold his breath any longer, he said he took in one breath. And after that one breath, he didn't feel anything. He said they pulled him out of his body. So like he didn't suffer. And I think that's the big takeaway from all of this. Well, not from all of this. That's not the big takeaway, but that helps. Like there's no suffering. There could be, but I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But you get it, I hope. How do you feel? Just confused for a second, and then a realization of what had happened. Atlantis had been destroyed, although I'm not sure how. What happened to all of the technology from Atlantis after the continent was destroyed? The knowledge and innovation went back into the collective. A little was physically saved, but most of it was destroyed with the island. Is there anything else that is important for Kathy to understand about this lifetime? She needed to see this to release the trauma that she has stored and brought back with her over the span of many lifetimes. This was the right lifetime to understand this life, and the trauma has now been released. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 17. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope I hope all of this brings some kind of comfort to those who need it. If it didn't, or if you're curious and want to learn more, I highly suggest looking up near-death experiencers on YouTube, or NDE. That's the acronym that's used for it. Look that up. Look at all of these different stories, because while they all have differences, there are a ton of similarities. A ton, okay? And these are people who were pronounced dead and they left their body. Like, just like you may hear of someone in a coma saying, oh yeah, I was still able to hear you, or someone who was in a coma and could tell you what happened down the hall. Those people leave their bodies because like our consciousness don't stop. It's energy, never ending, okay? So it's a lot easier for me to hear many stories from different people that have a lot of similarities, and for me to believe that that is true. I mean, that's where I'm at with it. I mean, you hear a lot of stories of people having near-death experiences, and they all say the same thing. There's no pain. All of your worries and fears and all of that just goes out of the window. It's very beautiful on the other side. And I say a good 90 to 95%, maybe even 98%. I dare to say 98% of near-death experiencers say that once they were on that other side, that in-between space, they didn't want to come back. Okay, they did not want to come back because it felt so good. It was so much love, so much freedom, so much lightness in your body. You don't feel any pain. All of the BS that we deal with here on Earth is gone. So practically, there may be. I think I've heard two people explain during their near-death experience. I think I've heard two people say they wanted to come back to Earth, and that was only because they had kids that they felt like they had to raise and no one else would be able to do it. Or, I think it was just the kids. I can't even think of any other reasons. It's just out of fear, like, okay, they're not going to be able to do this by themselves. They need some guidance. It's very few, very, very few. So I bring that up to say that helped me with dealing with losing loved ones, because if there's something on that other side that makes you not want to come back to this lifetime that's filled with people that you're familiar with, everything you're familiar with, things that you love, things that you hate. I mean, we were told that this is it. You live this one life, you do good, you go to heaven, you do bad, you go to hell, and that's it. And that's eternity. There's no coming back from that. To hear these other perspectives changes that for me, and it makes dealing with death easier, but not easy. Like I said, I still get emotional. I mean, I had to put my dog down about 2 weeks ago, and it was a Friday. So yeah, exactly two Fridays ago, I had to put my dog down. I cried like a baby. Like I'm at the vet. I'm carrying him in crying. And this is me woke. I know I know where he went. I know he's in a better place right now, but it still hurt. So like I don't expect this to take away any pain for anyone. Just try to find some peace and understanding and love, and know that our loved ones that is no longer here in the physical with us is still around us with energy. Their energies are still here, and their energies are still full of love, and they love us. So I love you, and I hope to see you next time.